Welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Stephen Rochester, and today we have a very, very special guest. This guy has been by my side for the last, going on almost 10 years. He runs one of the top real estate teams in the GTA. He's just an all-around great guy, and I have the pleasure of spending some time with him out of his busy schedule today. Welcome, Mr. Tyler Walbourne. How you doing, brother?
Steven?
Nice to see you, man.
Bro.
I seen your schedule the other day, and it was super packed. So I appreciate you carving out this hour and a half for me. You know,
I am trying to be very, very, very focused this year on time blocking effectively. But I definitely wouldn't miss it, and I really appreciate being on here. And I can't believe it's been like 10 years.
It's been 10 years, almost.
Yeah, almost 10 years. Yeah.
You started with. Well, actually, for people, I know you, but people don't know you, and they don't know that you run or you're behind the scenes of one of the biggest powerhouses in Toronto in terms of real estate, right? You do a lot of different things, but let's take it back. Where'd you start? You've always been in sales, essentially.
Yeah.
Right. Sales, customer service.
Yeah.
Right? Working with clients, along those lines.
I've always definitely been customer facing. It's something that isn't just my skills, what I enjoy, right? I just like, helping, servicing people and just trying to find solutions for whatever it is that they want. Yeah. How I actually started with REC Canada, which is our real estate firm, was really interesting, honestly, Stephen. It's kind of something that you would see in a book. And what happened was I worked at a restaurant right here at the Shops at Don Mills called Jack Astor's.
Right.
I was a patio server, bartender, and I was serving on the patio one day. It was a hot day, and these three guys were downstairs on the patio. I was serving them drinks, and afterwards, one of them asked me, they're like, "Tyler, what are you doing after this shift?"
Yeah.
And I was just like, it was a lunch shift. We're 21 at that time. I was like, I honestly probably just gonna go home and have some drinks or something. And they were like, "Come upstairs. We have an interesting proposition for you." And then they handed me their card. And I've never been offered an interesting proposition before where it's like, just come upstairs. So I Google searched at the time who they were. It was Simeon, Jazz, and Simon, and they were the owners of REC Canada. So I was just doing a little bit of digging before I went upstairs. Well,
even before that, why did they say that? What do you think it was about you that they saw something in you where come upstairs?
I don't know. I think about that sometimes. I think maybe it's just right place, right time.
Yeah.
They needed a role to be fulfilled in their organization, and they were probably just talking about it while they were having that lunch. And maybe I must have had that. I'm always positive, man. You know that, right? I'm super positive. And I'm always warm. I always just want to engage and have the conversation with people, and it just kind of opened up the conversation. And it's funny how having the right mindset is important. Is a few weeks prior to that, on my iPhone, I think it was iPhone 4. It was something. It was one of those little ones. I had a for sale sign because I wanted to become a realtor. Okay. I didn't even start my courses yet, none of that. But a few weeks prior, I put it on that, I wanted to see it, that I wanted to be a realtor.
Put it in the universe.
I put it in the universe.
Right.
And just so happens that happened as well.
Crazy how it works.
That's crazy, man.
Right.
And so I went upstairs and, they were talking about the role that they wanted, right? Which is, just an assistant role. They wanted someone that can help do their miscellaneous work. Yeah. And then also, which I found is something they put at the bottom, but I think it was the most important part of the role, which is consistently engage in the database, like the REC Insiders, their warm database. And it was a good conversation. I thought about it. I obviously took the job 11 years ago.
For sure.
And then now I've grown in the company, but I think the core values of, what we do, we've changed a lot, but I think the fundamental, how do we connect and engage with people is all the same, which is just we go outbound.
Yeah.
And I wasn't allowed to do any of the check pickups, any of the lockbox installs, the regular assistant stuff that we do.
Yeah.
that realtors have their assistants doing, I was not doing any of it until I had the 50 calls done.
Right.
Every day.
Yeah.
That was priority.
That was priority.
Yeah.
So before that, you mentioned you had this vision of being a realtor. Where'd that come from? Was that HGTV? Was that, and my shows are usually about, the fundamentals of real estate, but also the person behind the real estate.
Yeah.
Right? So, how'd you get to where you are today? I know because I've been with you for so long, but for the people that, see you online, see you at these events, see you with the big dogs, it's like, well, what do you do?
Yeah. So why I wanted to become a realtor at the time is, I was in the service industry at that point. Like I started working at restaurants when I was 14. And then at that point, I was like 21, 22 at the time. So like I was just in restaurants at that time. I went to university. I was there for a year, didn't like it.
Yeah.
But regardless, I was
What'd
still
you take in university?
I did parks management and tourism.
Got it.
So essentially, we could talk about why I think that rushing kids into university might not be the best route, because I picked parks management and tourism and, got in debt for this.
1,000%.
But, I was always still, while I was in school, I was always working in restaurants. Right. And I just thought I wanted to try something new.
Right.
And, with me being able to be warm and to talk to people about it, it was just natural that I wanted to be in real estate. What was unnatural about it was that, this opportunity just came in front of me.
Right.
And it was cool. It was really cool that happened that way.
So then fast forward, you get this opportunity out of nowhere, it seems.
Yeah.
Now you're in the building, you're in the room.
Yeah.
How'd that feel?
Oh, it's super intimidating, man.
Right.
At the beginning, because I come from a family, Stephen, that my grandfather was the only person that bought real estate. Like my close immediate family.
The family home.
They're exactly, and it's just a family home. But everyone else were perpetual renters. Mm. My cousins, my aunts, my uncles, my mom, and that's what we grew up in. So at the beginning, I had no idea like anything about real estate. I felt, or I thought, anyways. So it was a little bit intimidating, just like trying to understand like the conversations and like trying to grasp, what
the verbiage.
What the partners were talking about at the time, right? As well, like going outbound, being a younger kid at the time, I thought, I was at the beginning. It took me a few times to get used to it, and I think that's why maybe when you feel uncomfortable with something, more reps and more time at it will always be the best thing, other than doing it perfect the first time.
Right.
Because like you can't do it perfect anyways.
Yeah.
But like I felt very, very intimidated, Stephen, when I was going and doing those calls initially as well. I didn't know what to say. Luckily, I was in a group of very supportive, but as well as very forward-thinking individuals that like they knew it better than me at the time, is that like you shouldn't be intimidated. You can't say the wrong thing in your role.
Yeah.
And then you're just going to learn little by little, and that's what happened, and it's great.
And you hear that a lot of times, right? In sales, it's 80, if not 90%, picking up the phone and having that conversation.
It's doing the work.
Majority of people don't want to do that, right? It's, as you mentioned, it's intimidating sometimes.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to put themselves out there to make it feel like they're asking for something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? How do you get over that? Or how did you get over that?
You know what? It was just being firm with the amount of calls I had to make every day.
Yeah.
Like I wouldn't, so I have a rule and I still have it. It's just like ingrained in me, is once I decide that I'm going outbound and making these prospecting calls, regardless of whatever the type of call is, when I start, I do not stop until I make 10 calls.
Right.
And then I take a little break, refresh, like I go for walks and stuff.
Yes, no, doesn't matter. Just make
10
calls.
Make 10. And I do like checkbox, like I tick it off on my notebook. And I think that if you just like stay focused on it, like bro, 10 calls, like you know how much long that takes. That takes like, if you have
one call might take 20 minutes.
so this is 11 years of data that now I know. If I make 10 calls, the odds are one of every 3 are going to pick up. So we have a 33% connected rate there.
Right.
So that means that I'm making 10 calls, I'm talking to 3 people. The average time you're talking to someone is in and around 7 to 10 minutes, okay? That means that you can make those 10 calls in, call it 40 minutes,
Under an hour.
under an hour, and those 10 calls, make a huge dent to your business. And then to get over being intimidated, because I think that for me anyways, there's still always a feeling of nervousness sometimes, not when I'm making the call, but like, when I'm trying something new. Just I don't feel it in the call anymore. But I think like that's a good feeling anyways. It means you care about the results. I think you just got to get over it. Just like do more. If you feel nervous when you start off, or if you mess up on a call, guess what? The odds are that person doesn't even know that you messed up anyways. And then you just keep at it. Don't let the good things and don't let the bad things stop the work from happening in the future.
There you go.
That's it.
You've been with this team now for
11 years.
11 years. I've seen individuals in different industries, it doesn't really matter, hop jobs every 2 years. What made you stay with this team for such a long time?
I ask myself that question a lot, bro.
There has to be great things as well as challenges, but
I think
you don't stick with a relationship if it's terrible.
I think one is just kind of who I am. Like, I'm a very loyal person. I really am, and I do wear my heart on my sleeve. I really am. I am like you. What you see is what you get with me. There's no like ulterior motive when I say things.
I vouch for that.
I just say how I feel, and I think that's one of the reasons. The other reason is that as I was growing with REC. And then just like the other ventures in and around REC Canada, I was always given the space to like learn new things. And how I am, like I found out a few years back that I'm a tinkerer of sorts, and I just like to find things and kind of learn how it works.
Right.
So that like the passion in understanding, call it behind the scenes business development. The process of CRMs and how to automate work and when to not automate work. The processes of hiring and managing and all of that, like the actual systems and the processes, those things interest me. And the nice thing of working, we're very REC Canada, like we are really substantial in the amount of work and the amount of people that we work with and our connections are like it's a lot. But if you actually look at the people that are internal, there's not a lot. So I do classify it as like a small business.
For sure.
And the advantage that I've seen in my 11 years of working in a small business is that you wear a lot of hats. And if you're okay with that, you have so much that you can learn.
Absolutely. And potential for growth is
always
there.
100%. You can see that in like those medium and larger ones too. But I find, and this isn't from my point of view, this isn't from my personal experiences, this is from my point of view, is that like if you're working at like, I don't know, like RBC in the head office, for example, right? Like you have a division, but you're not seeing what else is going on. Like
you don't know what's happening in the other rooms.
I'm seeing everything.
Right.
And I'm very interested in that, and I still am to this day.
So then now you're working with this team. You're making your salaries. You're not working for tips anymore. Did you go down the traditional realtor route? Knocking on doors, handing out flyers, all that, or was it something different?
It was different for sure. So I did get my license while I was, working their admin role, and then I naturally progressed out of that admin role to being one of those buyer or seller agents for the team as well as for my own book of business. I did prioritize the team more than my book of business, and I think looking at it, now with hindsight, I probably should have focused a little bit more on my own personal brand. But
hindsight's always 20/20.
100%. I was still doing the work, right? And then I hit the streets, right? I for 2 years I was a buyer agent. I saw a lot, man. I saw a lot of
You saw the highs.
I saw the highs.
You saw the lows.
I saw very unique situations. I saw very unique properties. Honestly, we got some good ones in the data bank there. And it did really show me like what it does take to be a business owner, what it does take to be a realtor, how consistent you have to be with following up. And I kind of had it with the admin role, but now that's how I was getting compensated.
Exactly.
So I did that for I guess I would say like maybe like 2 years after the admin role. Then I was doing that for a few years, and then I transitioned into another role in the organization after that.
So, for my viewers at home, just being a regular guy working at Jack Astor's, getting an opportunity, right? Being ready for that opportunity, taking advantage of it, obviously going to school while you're working your 9 to 5. Now you have a 9 to 5, right? You feel like a big boy at that sense. Then you go into purchasing your own property, right? So talk to me about that. That's taking on a whole new, and this is after you having, developing your family and taking on, like, you're taking these steps now.
Yeah, and it feels kind of wild. And I was thinking about it on Wednesday. Like, I have a meeting with an accountant now to like talk about like where should I be putting like registered, like how much in registered funds, CFSA. These are things I tell clients to do, but like I've never really done
for yourself.
And it's kind of funny, just like the growth. And so it's funny you're bringing that up. It's like when did this get here where I'm doing these things now?
And that's my point, right? There's so much that's behind it we don't see.
Yeah.
In obviously your personal development, going from here to there and acquiring all this stuff, right? On top of building your family.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your first investment. What was that like?
Yeah.
What is it? Where is it?
So,
you don't have to give too much, but the process.
Sure. I'm an open book, bro. I'll say whatever. Okay, so originally my wife and I were looking for a primary residence. But like many young Canadians, like you and I was priced out of where I wanted to be.
Absolutely.
I live in Toronto. Like, I live 5 minutes from our office here. At that time, Cass was pregnant with Nora. Maybe she had Nora. It was close to around that time. And, the reality is I had to juggle where I can afford was like Kitchener, maybe,
At this point, you're renting.
At this point, I'm renting.
Got you.
And Kitchener, maybe, right? Yeah. And even then, it would be like paying like more than double what I'm paying right now in rent and my living costs, right? And I was like, do I want to live in Kitchener, drive here, because I'm still going to be here unless I find another job, right? Like, so these are conversations we had. Yeah. Drive at least 45 minutes without traffic. So with traffic, that's an hour and a half. Easily. Hour and a half there, hour and a half back to like see the kids for like 20 minutes.
The worst.
And still be more strapped for cash than I am now. Or do we want to create a different approach? And that different approach was, okay, instead, why don't we rent where we live? Yeah. And then let's just go drive down the 401 to where we can qualify. And we ended up landing in London.
Got it.
So 2 and a bit hours away from here. We found a condo, 3-bedroom, and the purchase price was affordable. It was under $300,000, right? And then like it was, for me, it made more sense to pay rent. If anything were to go wrong in the property, like where I live, they're paying for it. If the heater breaks, they're paying for it. If the AC is broken, they're paying for it. Right now, the fridge door is broken. Okay? My fridge door is broken. Guess what?
You can fix it, but why?
No, they're fixing it, right? That's the agreement of the tenant and the landlord.
1,000%.
That's their property.
That's what you have to deal with on the other side of that now.
And that's what I have to deal with on the other side. But at least the majority, when it was low interest rate time, all of the expenses were covered by the rent. Yeah. And now it's the majority. But still, it made more sense for me that way. As well, I think there's a learning lesson in these last few years with interest rates being as volatile as they've been and how high they've been. Because one thing that I found a lot of purchasers, Stephen, were looking at during like the 10 years of very urgent, double-digit growth and value type of markets that we just experienced. Right. Rightfully so, they were looking at how much does this property cost me? What's my overall expenses? What's my potential for revenue? Yeah. How does that work out? Can I budget that? Great. You have to do that. But what I find that a lot of investors didn't do is, or purchasers, didn't do, is they didn't also look at how much debt they were assuming.
Right.
The debt amount.
Can you carry that?
Yeah, like that, as well as like, okay, does it make sense for you right now where you are At that time, I was 30. Okay.
Yeah.
I bought it when I was 30. So at that time, it might late 20s, early 30s. Doesn't make sense for me to have an $800,000 mortgage now.
Perfect.
Right? For me, it didn't make sense. And I'm happy that I made that decision, but I think it's a learning lesson for a lot of people that when you're trying to qualify a purchase that you're going to be assuming debt for, investment or not, and we could talk about why primary residence, if you want, could be seen as an investment and not.
100%.
But
we have time. I know.
We can keep going.
We got time. All right. Yeah,
But it's important to know, though, how much debt they are assuming, because when there are high interest rate times, when you're going through a change in your job, like when life creeps up at you, does that debt amount make sense to where you are right now financially?
Right.
And I think that's important. And we made the decision of renting and investing. And things have come up, like being a property that's
naturally
2 and a bit hours away, but it's been very manageable.
Hindsight as well. Would you go back and do it the same way?
1,000%. I would have probably tried to stretch it by 2.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
Really? Now, what are your thoughts on people saying get a residential unit and have a separate dwelling in the basement, rent that out potentially, where you could have had some help with the actual mortgage?
That is a great potential option for someone.
It wasn't for you.
It wasn't an option that I thought that I realistically had.
Why? Because the properties were too much in price?
Because we were already looking at those properties like
Got
that.
it.
Like even in Kitchener, we were looking at, buying the upstairs, renting out the basement.
Right.
And even then it would be at the top of the budget of what I could afford. But for someone that, maybe has a little bit more down, like at the time I didn't have that much down.
And then what does it take to get, in terms of down? You've had this 9 to 5 for the X amount of years. You've saved. Obviously, you've developed saving habits.
Yeah. It took time.
I'm sure it did.
The one thing of going from like the service industry where you get cash in hand, and being young, to then building the right proper saving and spending habits, bro. It took me a long time to break that habit.
I'm sure.
I'm now pretty good, but honestly.
So what was that thing that clicked? I got to put some of this away.
It was.
How much did you start with?
With REC?
$250 a week, $250 bi-weekly.
Oh, for savings?
Yeah.
Okay, so here's what I had to do.
What was your strategy?
Here was how I got out of my problem, okay? And I'm still kind of getting out of my problem.
No, we're all getting out of the problem.
So this is what I did.
We're all working on it, okay?
So going from the service industry with cash in hand to then taking a pay cut and doing like an admin role was a big shock for me, and I probably should have adjusted my spending earlier, but I didn't. I was still going out. I was still being a 24-year-old, bro, 25-year-old, eating out all the time, going out to clubs, like just having fun, right? Which you should, right? All 20-year-olds don't just stay home all day, okay? Go have fun. Do it within your means though, so what happened was probably when I was about 27, 28, a few things happened. One, I got audited from the CRA, and then they said I owe a little bit more money than I thought I was gonna have to owe.
Right.
Okay, so there was one there. Okay. The second thing was that I looked at my credit card bill and it started racking up. And then I had my wedding coming up, and all of those things together, I sat down with my fiance, but wife now, and we're just like, this doesn't make sense. We can't keep this debt, that's bad debt, pooling. What do? So the first thing that we had to do is we had to create a savings and budgeting plan. One, I had to cut expenses in the way.
All the nonsense.
Yeah, all the nonsense, the subscriptions, even now,
right.
I don't have a streaming subscription. The only thing I have is a ChatGPT subscription. That's what I have.
No Netflix.
None of that.
No Hulu.
No.
Wifey's not watching Kardashians.
We have an Android box.
There you go.
We found an alternative way to do it, and then after we trimmed our monthly expenses as much as we could, we then wanted to tackle the debt first.
Right.
In my mind, saving a lot of money with this debt when we're paying we had lines of credit and stuff, but it was still like, 11 to 14% interest depending on the account, right? Like it was still like not 19%, 21%, but it was still
It's a lot of money, man.
And then we focused on that first,
Right.
chipping that away. And it took time, man. It took time to chip that away. And after that, we started then to save.
How did it feel to pay off the credit cards?
How
did it feel?
Okay, you want to know the reality? Now talk about life?
Feel?
Okay, it felt amazing.
Oh my God.
Until you go back into your old habits.
And touch it again.
Yeah. And so now we're good. Started this year, like we did it again.
Yeah.
And, last year. And it feels really good because now every extra dollar you can now play with because you've already trimmed your expenses. Yeah. What I would recommend now, being in the problem of debt, getting out of that problem, being in that problem again, and then now getting out of it, and for a little bit now, I would say do not change how you're managing your living expenses when you were trying to pay down your debt, when you're out of debt. Try to like keep it tight still for a bit. Yeah. And then what I would recommend doing is probably saving like at least $10,000 as like
year.
Saving like 10,000 liquid as like a savings fund. Little by little. Yeah. If it takes you time, it takes you time. And then once you get the 10,000 saved up, everything else now, put it into these different accounts to at least have it worked for you. And being worked means that you can invest, like obviously in real estate, but there's other passive styles of investments as well that are in real estate and not in real estate, like investing into like a stock or an index fund, where at least your money's being worked for you while you can pool that money, and then you can use it to buy.
We'll talk about, if we have time, we'll talk about those kind of options. But
so that's
high level.
That's
how you did it, right?
That's how I did it. I first eliminated my debt because it didn't make sense on having like a 14% per year interest charged on that. When like even if you invest into the stock market, like in a very average case, if you're like a conservative to medium risk investor, bro, you're only getting like max 14% return. Right. So that's a fucking wash. Yeah. So I was like, okay, let's get this debt out of the way.
1,000%.
And then after that, save up a reserve fund of your living expenses. Try to do 2 to 3 months or 10,000, one or the other. And then once you have that, then try to then devote it to this chessboard that we have.
So you guys mastered this plan. You got to a point where you can at least put some money away to make a decision.
And then our decision was to go and buy that condo.
Right. And then you're a landlord, right? So you've had these conversations with landlords all the time about, picking the perfect tenant and all the horror stories that go along with it, right?
Yeah, 100%.
How diligent were you selecting your tenant or tenants?
So I've owned this condo now for a few years. I've gone through 3 rounds of tenants.
Sure.
Steven,
every year?
No, 3 rounds of tenants total.
Got it.
In the last 4 years. No, 5 years. Okay. Steven, I have said no on each one of those. Like, sorry, not no. I've said, sorry, I will not be renting this property to you, to prospective tenants, far more than yeses. I have said no probably like 25 to 30 times before I said yes to
and what
each
were you
tenant.
looking for? Or what weren't you looking for? I'm sure we can guess. If your credit score is trash, then you're not getting anything. If you don't have money, then. But what were the things that you're like, nah?
Yeah, you know what? It's not even just like what the credit score is. I want to say, I actually ask like why. Yeah. And like there's tenants that I've rented to where their credit score wasn't the greatest. Sure. Like their score. But you got to read in between why it's not. So
that's very important.
Yeah, it is. And I feel like people get stereotyped based off of their credit score. And it's not right because sometimes like, how can you blame someone for a problem or like something that they've rectified 10 years ago?
Right.
And they're like trying to...
And it's still there.
Like it's still affecting it, right? So what I look for when I'm screening the tenants for this property, one, you got to understand what market you have the property in. And I wouldn't say that London is a tertiary market. Like it's not like a Boons, like it's not like out nowhere where there's like fucking 1,000 people. Yeah. It's an established city, but to me it's a very blue collar city.
Got it. It's a working town.
Working town, and the reality is that, you do have to really comb through, I find, blue collar areas a little bit more than like more centralized urbanized areas like Toronto, even though you should still comb through Toronto applications as well. And then what I was looking for first was dynamics of who they were, like who's going to be living in this property. It was a 3-bedroom condo, so it's not one person. So is it a family? Is it groups of friends? Is it siblings?
Partners.
So I want to understand who it is first. Then I take a look at what their income shows. I want to know if they can afford it. And then rule of thumb, and it gets harder and harder as rents rise, with income staying pretty stagnant. But rule of thumb is that you should probably find a tenant, Stephen, that after you subtract their housing costs, they should still, it should not eat up more than 40 to 50% of what their actual income is for the month.
Right.
Because they still have groceries, they still have car payments.
So if they make $4,000, or if the rent is $2,000, then they should make at least $400 to $4,500 to $5,000.
Exactly. A month.
A month.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you find these tenants. What's the reason why they're turning over? Like in the market, I'm sure people just want to get away or upgrade or downsize or whatever the case is. Everybody has their reasons, right?
Yeah.
So what was the reason for the turnover?
I think condos naturally, and it's a little less because mine's like a 3-bedroom.
Yeah.
But I think condo tenants naturally do turn over more than if you're buying like a single family home or a townhouse or a duplex. It's designed for a certain type of person.
Yeah.
And it's not really designed in most cases for a family to grow in. It's designed for, 2 guys in their 20s. It's designed for...
Which works in your favor. I'm sure it does.
Yeah, right? It does. It does. There's more work, right,
There's pros and cons to everything, obviously.
It's designed for a young couple. It's designed for a couple with 1 kid that's under 3. Right? And I think just naturally, as you grow older, you kind of just get phased out of those rental condos. And then you rent them out. So, yeah.
Homeowner now, partner in businesses now. I've seen your growth, and I'm super proud of you. So it's
Thanks, man.
I just like to, sit next to people that are doing huge things in their industries. Right now you have this new role with your brokerage, with your team. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I think, as businesses grow and as businesses like add these different, systems or like types of products to their organization, things shift, right? And I think these last few years with how the way that the market is, we've really focused on just providing education 1,000 times more than just sending opportunities.
Sure.
We always did that to our core. Like, as I said before, like we were always like solution oriented. And I think that's why I've lasted in this company and why I've wanted to be here.
Yeah.
But specifically over the last few years, Stephen, you've seen it. Yeah, for sure. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
I just ask questions until you tell me what the challenge is, and I was like, okay, great.
Let's
find this one.
Yeah.
And you've seen it, right? Like, we focus more on just building plans better, finding solutions to some of their overall challenges for investors better now. And what happened this year, or over the last few years, we've really grown what we call the real estate action plan, which is how to build a 1-year, 5-year, 10-year roadmap for someone trying to potentially buy, sell, invest, build wealth in real estate, right? And through the growth, I've taken on obviously a big portion of that. It's what I want to do, and I love doing that stuff. And so as of January of this year, we have 2 divisions within REC Canada. I became vice president of one of those divisions.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Let's go. By the way.
Now, don't talk about your dollars, but that means what exactly?
Yeah, and it's not even like about the compensation. It's, and honestly, even let's go with the title. It feels cool to say, like vice president. Like, started from like an assistant to vice president is really cool.
Yeah.
But it was more now the ability to control like control the way I want to communicate with our insiders.
Right.
Like now it's more not me just bringing ideas and waiting for people to say yes to it.
Yeah.
Now it's okay. This is my idea. Let's go do it.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of had that runway, but now I have the someone telling me do whatever you want,
right,
type of thing.
You've
reason.
proven yourself thus far.
Yeah.
Right. So at this point now, are you building out a team? You know, obviously that stuff will come, right?
It's gonna come. I think what we're doing right now, we did a lot, as I said, like we spoke to a lot of investors last year and the year before.
Yeah.
We're just trying to see now, you know, like based off of the plans that we place, like what is the actual like results of this? Has like the investments that we've kind of like told you about, like if you would have done it or if you have done it, how has the actual wealth been generated? It's more now just getting case studies and going through and doing stuff like that, which is always nice because now I could just open up someone's plan we built, like fucking like flip through their CRM and their files and just say, okay, based off of this, we had like that 3-year plan. You were supposed to be here by year 3. How have things progressed?
Yeah.
Let me take a look at this property, and it's been really interesting. It's been a lot more work, man, but it's been interesting, and we're just leveling up. It's been great.
Before I let you go,
before you say anything, also you'd like to pump my tires, which is great. I want to pump yours. For everyone watching right now, Steven is amazing. I have not met a person that is so flexible in finding solutions to back-end systems, to
real recognized real brother.
Yeah, to you know, to some of these obstacles, and you know, just being like that go-getter yourself, right? So that's great. And then you know, the stuff you're doing in real estate's amazing too. You're doing it the same way, I find, which is very unique. Like I find a lot of realtors, what they do is they do the work that's like coming to them, right? And what you're doing is you're going out, you're trying to find, you know, these avenues of ways that you can maximize your systems that you already know how to do. You're learning to maximize, or you're maximizing, like when you're talking to someone, you know, getting the big picture out of it and all of that. And that's great, man. Like I see it.
It's all development, right? Self-development.
It's really good.
I want to do a quick case study with you right now. So obviously I like to speak to people that have done it, right? Not people that just want to talk about doing it. You're an investor now. You've helped, I want to say, thousands of investors thus far. I want to talk about what it takes to actually obtain a property, right? So a quick run through of a property that's on the market right now. It's from our colleague, Tristan Clunas. Most of you guys might know him. He has a great property out in Bowmanville right now.
Best singing voice in the industry.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He has a property. Actually, let me bring it up right now. And then let me know, what does it take for someone to get this property? And then
is this like the process of buying and analyzing the property?
This is going to be buying. Let's do a quick analyze if we can. Let me see if I can bring this up quick. Okay, cool. This is what we have here. We have a property that's under $700,000. The price is $698,800. Okay. What do you need? What does somebody need to purchase something like this? Right. This is a 4-bedroom, 4-bath
condo townhouse.
With a separate.
Is it a condo townhouse or a freehold townhome? It does make a difference.
Does it?
Yeah, but it's okay. I'll go through both.
Talk to me about it.
I think
what is the difference?
It's probably a.
What is the difference?
It might be a freehold. Oh, that'd be nice if it's a freehold. Okay, so the first thing that you have to understand, you know, when you're trying to.
Okay, hold on. Let's talk about this property real quick so we can get context.
Sure.
4-bed, 4-bath in Bowmanville. So what is that from this location? About an hour and a half, maybe? An hour?
An hour.
Call it an hour
what's
drive.
Oshawa?
This is
45.
To my point of driving till you qualify.
Yeah.
So it's an hour from the city, right? Has a separate unit. So
it does?
One of these 4 bedrooms are in the basement.
Oh, with an income suite.
With an income suite.
So 2 kitchens.
With two kitchens.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Right. The potential for rent as well as living in. So to my question earlier, you know, purchasing something you could live in and then renting out the basement, helping with the mortgage. Price wise, what do you need as you're down?
Okay, so
let's start there.
First, if we're building a case study, we got to understand who this buyer is, right? So you can either do a case study on someone who's using it solely as a rental, or someone who's going to be buying it as a primary residence, living in there.
Let's talk about someone, this is their first purchase.
They're looking to live there.
Yeah.
Okay. So what you first have to understand is when you're speaking to someone, or when you as a buyer, you're trying to understand, what is it that I can qualify for? What is it that I can afford? Like, where's my price point? Like, what should I even be looking at?
Right.
Okay, so the first thing that I would recommend doing is understanding how much money you have as a down payment.
Sure.
Okay? You do not have to put 20% down if you're going to be using it as a primary residence. You can do depending on your financing capabilities, you can go as low as 5%.
Got it.
So in this case, $700,000, that means that's $35,000 is what you would need as a down payment.
Minimum.
For minimum. For this property.
Yeah.
I would probably say, depending on qualification, like let's just say someone has $50,000, okay? If you have $50,000, depending on your financing situation, this could be something that you can explore. Now, first you got to understand, okay, boom, I got $50,000. That's great. I now know that I can go up to, if I have $50,000, I can go up to $700,000 to $750,000.
Right.
Let's just have that as a benchmark rule for someone right now.
Got it.
Okay. Where now can I find these properties? Actually, you have two potential options as a buyer right now. First is you can then go onto like MLS or Realtor.ca.
Right.
You can then go in and see, where are homes under $750,000. Then you can comb through 1,000 friggin' listings.
Well, let's talk about this one specifically.
That's probably not the right route.
Right.
So let's just say this specific property came up and you're seeing if this is right for you.
Yeah.
The next thing that you're
closing costs and all that. What does it take?
Yeah. Okay. So the next thing that you would do though, even before that point, is I would recommend reaching out to an independent mortgage broker.
Got it.
The reason why I would lean into, especially on the initial conversation, to see if this is right for you or not, would be independent versus like going to a bank, for example.
Right.
Is you want someone that can just give you raw facts, and someone that can at least tell you, okay, like, what I'm seeing, you can get variable rate in and around here.
Yeah.
Fixed rate in and around here from these different lenders. Whereas if you go to a bank, you might get a potential, better rate, but like you're only shopping at one store. Like you're only shopping at one lender.
Yeah.
Speak to a mortgage broker, especially for the first call.
Because they can shop around for you.
They can shop around for you, but they'll give you the actual service of saying like, okay, if you're looking at this property, you have this amount down.
Yeah.
This is what you should be looking. This is what you need as a down payment, and this is what you should be expecting as carrying costs.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why, there's two reasons why it's important. The next stage is to engage with a mortgage broker, Stephen, is because you want to understand what the overall carrying cost of that property is, so it makes sense for you. Like, can you actually afford this?
Right.
As well, they'll then begin the process of like telling you what documents you need, what you need to build this plan. You don't need to give it to them yet, but at least like know, okay, these are what I need to give to the mortgage broker, so then they can see if I can get this mortgage.
Right.
What you would do afterwards is, okay, now you know.
35 down minimum.
Yeah, 35 down minimum, 35 to 50 down, right?
It.
That's good enough based
Yeah.
off of the conversation with the mortgage broker to start this process and engage in communication with people.
Right.
I now know that I can afford the carrying costs, but what you need now and what you're missing is, you need to understand truly what this property is worth.
Yeah.
Like based on facts, not what the seller wants.
And how do you find that out?
I would reach out to someone like yourself.
Yeah.
And work with a realtor. I would work with a realtor that understands that market, that can actually give you real data and a good conversation. You don't want someone that's honestly, if you're interviewing realtors, you do not want to work with someone that is just an order taker.
Yeah.
You tell them to do something, they go and do that for you. You want someone that asks you these engaging questions. You want someone that like really wants to understand what you want, what you're trying to get out of this, and what might be best for you. But if we're just solely zoomed in on this property, Stephen, what I would do with the realtor is I would ask them, what do we think the expected value on this property is?
Right.
Can you give me more data in regards
Based on other ones that have sold in the past? Or?
Correct.
Got
Yeah,
it.
based off of it's called like comparative market data.
Yeah.
And so they'll take a look at, like you'll take a look at, recent solds, recent availables, what else is in and around this townhouse complex that's selling that's comparable, so you can kind of get an idea of what this entry, range of prices, let's call it.
Right.
And that's without seeing the property, obviously.
Yeah.
Like your range gets smaller as you go and see it, and then now you can really compare apples to apples with other availables and solds. But right now it's not for that. Right now you just want to get an idea, kind of range of what we think will get the job done to buy this property.
Exactly.
And then you also want to understand if you're using this property as a rental, you want to understand what you can rent it for too.
Yeah, that one unit in the basement has a washer, dryers, kitchen.
Because you're going to use that data and bring it back to the mortgage broker and say, hey, this is what the actual rents are going to be. Because then that will help you when you're building the financing plan. Like when they go to the lender, they're saying this part's going to be used as a rental. We're lowering they take half of whatever the monthly rental income is. Yeah. So say renting it for $2,200. They're taking $1,100.
Well, basement, I don't know. I don't think so.
Whatever, it doesn't matter.
Whatever it is.
This is not, I'm not giving real data.
Got you.
And then they're taking like $1,100 out of what they're doing is like, the lender's looking at you and seeing like, can you afford this property based off of the expenses, right? And how much you have down and who you are. Can you afford it? But when they add in rental income to it, it actually gives you a little bit more breathing room so you can get the approval for this property. Because now your expenses are less. And so that's why you need to engage the realtor on that as well. Investment focus.
To figure out exactly what you can potentially get from that rental income.
What the value potentially range of this property is. And then what we think the rents in the basement are going to be. And the best part about it at that point, once you understand, with this specific property, does it make sense for you or not? Because at that point you'll understand, like, okay, can I actually do something for $698,000? Yes or no? Based off of what the realtor and the mortgage broker and who I am.
Well, the start is to have the down payment, which is on the low end, $35,000.
35, yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
So
I would probably
with an
say,
extra $10K for closing costs.
Yeah, because the closing costs, if you're a first-time home buyer, you get the rebate for your land transfer tax.
Okay.
And then you would need legal fees. I'd probably budget about $1,800, $1,800 for legal fees. You do need a real estate lawyer for anyone purchasing real estate. Highly recommend working with a real estate lawyer for it. It'll cost about $1,800.
Got it.
You'll need potentially on the property to do an inspection for it. The inspection on the property, it probably won't cost you this much, but budget for it about $500 for the inspection. And then you're going to need potentially based on your lender to pay an appraisal fee. An appraisal fee, what that is that when you're getting close to closing, the lender wants to understand what, based off of their internal data, what they value this property at. Sometimes they'll do it virtually if there's enough data. Sometimes they'll need to have someone go and inspect the property.
Price to both, I'm guessing.
To price it, to see if it's like, if your price that you're asking for as a loan is in line with what they believe the value of the property is.
Got it.
And then, so the budget there is about $300 for that. So that means that we're looking at 18 and 3, so 2,100 plus another $2,600.
Round up.
But you're not paying land transfer tax. If you were paying land transfer tax on that, you would probably have to budget another 15, maybe 15.
And why are you not paying land transfer tax on that?
You're a first-time home buyer, so you get the land transfer tax rebate.
Got it.
So so you don't pay that.
You don't need it.
You don't
call it what it is, right?
Use that incentive, everyone.
Right.
But if you're not a first-time home buyer, you would have to pay that. So you would budget, another 12 to 15.
So something like this is very doable for the average, bus driver, teacher. If they're, maybe a couple that have some savings, $35,000 to $50,000, they want to get into the market. There's no right or wrong time to do it, but
I think it is very realistic. Like the $700,000.
It's a high price because again, these houses are just out of. They price you out realistically.
And like $700,000 list price doesn't also mean $700,000. Asking. That's asking. Doesn't mean what we think the value is.
Right.
But I think like if you could rent it out for I'm hoping $2,200.
Yeah,
but,
1,500 to $2,000.
to lower it.
Right.
It does dip your toes in the investment side as well because you're managing tenants. Even
And I feel like they're
right
doing
there.
these kinds of properties for the purpose of, giving people the incentive of potentially renting it out.
Yeah, and the strategy there is called house hacking.
Yeah.
Like what you're explaining there, which is living in one of the units and renting out the other.
Right.
It's called house hacking. We've been doing it for forever.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the new term of it.
Yeah, separate
you just
entrance,
gotta be okay
kitchen
with,
in the basement.
Honestly, you just gotta be okay, Steven, with like if you're buying this, you gotta be okay with the monthly expenses. And now is a good time to kind of explore it, I believe.
But it's also the distance. It's Bowmanville.
Yeah, you gotta be able to be okay with that as well.
Yeah.
The changes in your lifestyle. But maybe like people are already commuting. Like we don't know.
Yeah.
And also the change of your living expenses. And I think that that's really important to know. And I was saying that now is a really good time to explore these options because as of right now, variable rates are sitting call it 4.2 to 4.5%.
Dropping.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
But I still think over the decade, they're probably gonna be hovering around that mid fours.
Yeah, and who knows what will happen in the future with all these tariffs going on and all the nonsense. But
which is why I think for the foreseeable future, now's a good time because I feel like this is kind of what your living expenses is going to be. Your mortgage cost is going to be around this.
Yeah.
For the foreseeable future.
And we'll wrap on this. What are your thoughts on what could potentially happen if this tariff thing is going on in Canada? How will that impact,
bro? Honestly,
investors, potential people that want to get into the market?
I don't even want to pretend that I have an idea because I really,
who knows what it means?
I don't really have I've been researching it,
right?
But I don't have a full idea of what I think is really going to do to the economy. I think the reality is that what the tariffs do is it actually makes it makes the Americans pay more.
Sure.
Because they're going to get taxed before it even hits them.
Yeah.
Right. So which means that naturally we're going to have to sell these things at a higher price. And then what I think it's going to do in the micro. Okay, so I guess I do have an opinion.
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I do have an opinion.
Everybody has an opinion. Right?
So I think that it's probably going to make things more expensive.
Sure.
But over the past, I've seen this stat, which is crazy. Over the past 4 years, we have seen a huge growth in our grocery costs, in our gas costs, in our living expenses.
Simple
a
things.
huge growth.
Yeah.
Do I think that this is going to push it more where it's going to be even more so than what we see right now? I don't think so.
Sure.
I think we're probably going to see a little bit of increase, but not as much as what we saw over the last 3 to 4 years.
This is now the norm.
Bro, we saw if groceries cost $200 in 2020, today they're costing over $300.
Same things.
Same things.
Yeah.
That's a 30 to 40% increase in the last 4 to 5 years.
Right.
So I don't think. So I don't think it's. I think it's.
Long story short, get some more money, brother. Figure out ways to protect your family.
If you're always trying to find solutions, the easiest way to find a solution is how do we bring more money in?
Right.
For sure.
You know what I mean?
And then where I think this economy is gonna go, again, I have no idea. I do believe though that the Bank of Canada is leaning towards lowering rates for the reason that they know what's going to come with things getting more expensive.
Right.
The dollar's already lessened. So what's a little bit more going to even do?
Right.
And then I think if we were all forward thinkers and being proactive rather than reactive, I think the right decision would be to start to invest in as an economy, try to get some diversified employment, try to get people here, bring different businesses here is probably the way that we can
bring back farming.
Yeah,
bring back all these things that we lost. The
just don't have
industries.
Work on small businesses. Try to just have as many people working,
generating,
creating things.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's possible.
Man, we could do this for hours because I didn't even get through half my questions, but you know, I just appreciate you sitting down with me. I know you're super busy, but
No, I appreciate it. I love it.
honestly,
We'll do it again.
I'm excited to see what you do next. Every year we get to do new things. You know what I mean? It's like we always have this reset button where we can, you know, reshift our goals and like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I'm just happy to know you, Ty.
Yeah, man.
My guy,
That
my
was
brother,
really fun.
and we're gonna do this again sometime soon. So if you guys like this episode, please subscribe, hit that like button, helps with the algorithm and all that jazz. Until next time, love you.